Ohio. Armenia, the state in Transcaucasia. This state is located in the north of Western Asia, in the northeast of the Armenian highlands. Has no outlet to the sea. Borders on Azerbaijan in the east. In the southwest with Nakhchivan being a part of Azerbaijan. With Iran in the south, with Turkey in the west and with Georgia in the north. Does the transport communication with the unrecognized Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, Artsakh Republic, which is carried out since the November 10, 2020 through the Lachinsky corridor, which is under control of the Russian peacekeeping forces. Armenia controls a part of the territory challenged by Azerbaijan. Enclaves of Karki, Barkuduli, Sofulu, Yakrievsky Pera. Azerbaijan controls a part of the territory challenged by Armenia. An exclave Artsvashan. The population of Armenia for 2017 made 2,986,100 people. The territory -29743 km. According to some information, takes the 136th place in the world on population, and the 138th in territory. The capital, Yerevan. A state language, Armenian. The unitary state with the parliamentary form of government. Since April 9, 2018, the president of Armenia is Armen Sargsyan. It is subdivided into 10 areas and the city of Yerevan. Nearly 95% of the population are professed by Christianity. Most of Christians belongs to the Armenian Apostolic Church, which is one of Drevnevostokny churches. The industrial and agrarian country with dynamically developing economy. In structure of DDD it is necessary. On agriculture -31.1%, the industry -21.8%, trade -8.7%, construction -8.5%, transport -5.1%, other spheres -24.9%. The volume of nominal DDD for 2018 was $12.4 billion. About $42.38 per capita. Monetary unit Armenian dram. An average course for 2019, 475 dram for dollar. On May 28, 1918, the independent First Republic of Armenia was proclaimed. On November 29, 1920, in Armenia the Soviet power was established, and the Armenian Soviet Socialist Republic, which entered till 1936 the USSR as a part of ZES, and since December 5, 1936, as the Federal Republic is formed. On August 23, 1990, the Supreme Council of the Armenian Soviet Socialist Republic adopted the Declaration on Independence of Armenia. It was declared that in the territory of Armenia only the Constitution and laws of the Republic of Armenia work. On September 23, 1991, by results of the held referendum, the Supreme Council of the Republic confirmed independence of Armenia. On March 2, 1992, the Republic of Armenia was admitted anew, and on January 25, 2001, to the Council of Europe. The toponym Armenia goes back to the Haritsky name adjacent from the Meliteni army area located on the Armenian highlands. This name through the Aramaic now passed into ancient Persian language, and in the form of Armenia of 6 times meets in the Pakistansky inscription 522 BB. An ancient Greek form of the name Other Greek. The ancient Greek name of Armenians used before distribution. Armenio was Melatinio. According to the Armenian historian of the 5th century Moses Hornatsi, the name Armenia and the corresponding ancient Greek and ancient Persian toponyms are given by name the Urartskys are Aram. In Armenian the name of the country sounds as Haik. In the Middle Ages the place of the Armenian toponymic suffix, tu, was taken by the borrowed Iranian suffix, camp, and the country began to be called Hayastan. The name of the country contacts the legendary primogenitor of Armenians Ike who Bala broke in fight army of the Babylon Tsar and founded the Armenian state. Presumably, it happened in 2492 BB. This year is considered the first in the Drevnomyansky pagan calendar. Other version connects this name with the ancient state of Hayasa. The 16th-13th centuries BB. According to the third version, the self-name of Armenia comes from the Urartsky name of Malitena. AD. The flag of Armenia represents a rectangular panel from 3 equal horizontal strips. Top red, average, blue and lower orange color. The flag width relation to its length makes 1:2. The flag of Armenia was accepted by the Supreme Council of the Republic of Armenia on August 24, 1990. On June 15, 2006, the National Assembly of the Republic of Armenia adopted the new law about national flag of the Republic of Armenia. The government of Armenia treats value of flowers as follows. Red color symbolizes the Armenian highlands, constant fight of the Armenian people for existence, Christian belief, freedom and independence of Armenia. Blue color symbolizes the aspiration of the Armenian people to live under a peaceful sky. Orange color symbolizes creative talent and diligence of the Armenian people. The coat of arms of Armenia was accepted on April 19, 1992 and specified by the law of June 15, 2006. The coat of arms is made by the following elements. The board in the center of Mount Ararat, which is a symbol of the Armenian nation at her top Noah's Ark as it agrees, including the Armenian tradition, an ark after a flood stopped on the Mount Ararat. According to the Bible, on the mountains Ararat. The board is divided into 4 parts which symbolize 4 independent Armenian kingdoms of different times. Clockwise. Arshakadav, Rubenidav, Artashezadav and Bagratadav. The lion and oriole which support a board symbolize themselves wisdom, pride, patience and nobility. Primary color of the coat of arms of Armenia, golden, kingdoms of historical Armenia, red and blue. Mount Ararat in the center of the coat of arms is represented on a board of orange color. The specified colors traditionally were used in the coats of arms and banners of imperial dynasties of Armenia and are similar to flowers of a flag of the Republic of Armenia. In the bottom of a board there are 5 more elements. A broken off chain, a sword, wheaten ears, a branch and a tape. The Anthem of Armenia, composition Our Homeland. Mer Aranik, literally, Our Fatherland. It is approved on July 1, 1991, by the law of December 25, 2006. The anthem of the First Republic of Armenia of 1918-1920 is taken as a basis. The author of verses, Mikhail Nalbandian, 1829-1866. The author of music, Barsik Kanachin, 1885-1967. At performance of the anthem on the majority of official actions, only the first and fourth stanzas are used. According to Drevnomyansky mythology, Haik founded the Armenian state and drew his borders around 3 lakes. Wang, Urmia and Seven, and altogether around Mount Ararat. The governor of Babylon Titan Bel interferes in the kingdom created by Haik, and on August 11, 2492 BC. In areas I'd say G's letters. The Armenian Valley. Between them occurs battle. In this battle Ike kills Bel with a shot from onions. Ike becomes the founder of the Armenian kingdom. He is idolized, and the people begin to call itself a word, find fault, emphasizing the family tree from the legendary giant. In the north of Armenia, in the Lori Plateau, more than 20 and even age Acheulean monuments located, mainly in the foothills of the volcanic Javiketi Ridge, were found. Among them superficial locations prevail. Grateful Dastadam, Noramouth, etc. On which over 1,000 Acheulean products from the local Gyalodats are collected, including about 360 manual cut. Also 3 stratified monuments. Muradovo, Karakash and Curtin, who for the first time brought Shrednashelsky and early Acheulean technologies, are found. The monuments opened in northern Armenia contain traces of the most ancient migrations of early people out of borders of Africa. Early Acheulean materials of Karakachon age are close to the most ancient early Acheulean industries of East Africa. About 1.5–1.8 million years ago. Traces of dwelling of the most ancient person were found in various regions of the Armenian highlands. In Arsni, Nernis and other places parking with stone tools, and in Arini, the Hrazdan Gorge were found, to Lusakerta, etc. Caves dwellings were found. The age of the most ancient found stone tools is 800,000 years. Parking of primitive people of the Neolithic era were also found. In mountains numerous rock paintings with scenes of hunting were found. The first agricultural and cattle breeding settlements in the territory of future Armenia arose in the Ararat Valley and in the territory of the modern Shirak region. In the territory of modern Yerevan near Shengavit, the settlement of the beginning of a Bronze Age which is dated in the 5–3 millennia BB was revealed. Data of archaeological excavations confirm that inhabitants of the Armenian highlands in an extreme antiquity seized many crafts. So, it is known that in the 5–4 millennium BB they were able to melt copper, and in the 2 millennium BB, iron. The most ancient footwear which aged more than 5,500 years was found in Armenia at excavation of a cave of Arini in September 2008. Nahatka is dated the Eneolith period, 3,600–3,500 years to now. These are soft shoes with the pointed ends charak. The fan footwear became the oldest archaeological find in Europe and Asia. According to experts, this footwear almost doesn't differ from that which was carried in the Armenian settlements. According to the Soviet Orientalist I.M. Iakonov, from 12th century BB in the territory of the Armenian highlands there was a process of formation of the Armenian people which came to the end by 6th century BB. Such people as Harita, Arata, Luviets and tribes carriers of Proto-Armenian were the main components of ethnogenesis of Armenians. Final merge of Urartu to the Armenian people came to the end by 4-2 centuries BB. The Armenian people, the physical and cultural successor of all ancient population of uplands, first of all, Hurit, Urart and Luviets. Thus, history of the Armenian people, direct continuation of their history. Some historians, for example, 1. Iakonov, make an existence hypothesis already in the first half of the 6th century BB in the former territories of Urartu of the independent Armenian kingdom under the auspices of the Musul. The American historian R. Hewson considers existence of the Armenian kingdom by the time of Median gain rather certain. At the same time, it is recognized that rudiments of the Armenian statehood leave before the period of the 6th century BB. After falling of the state of Urartu at the beginning of the 6th century BB, the Armenian highlands was sometime under hegemony of the Musul, and later was a part of the empire of Achaemenid. As a part of the power of Achaemenid, Armenia was from the second half of the 6th century BB to the second half of the 4th century BB divided into two satrapies -13. The western part, with the capital in Melitene, and 18. A northeast part. In 331-220 years BB there was the Armenian state Great Armenia, or Araratsky Kingdom, with the capital in Armavir, near modern Yerevan, which in 316 BB gained independence. In the country the dynasty Arvandadev governed. 1. The Armenian kingdoms Arvandadev, Ararat, Sophena and Comagena, and Small Armenia in the 4-2 centuries BB2. Armenia on Herodotus' card, 450 BB. After short-term gaining Selevkidami, Armenia found to gain independence when in 189 BB Artashes I founded the state Great Armenia. Already in the period of Artashes, as is well known from Strabo's message, all population of Armenia spoke one language, Armenian, though, with big impurity of the Persian expressions. Up to the first half of the 2nd century BB it remained language of the government and the Yard Imperial Aramaic. Approximately in 163 BB the independence was proclaimed also by Comagena. Small Armenia as the independent state existed till 115 BB, then it was captured at first by Pontians, then Romans. In 70 years BB at Tigran II Veliki Great Armenia turned into the large empire stretching from the Caspian Sea to Palestine and Egypt. After variable progress in wars with Rome and fight at Artaxat and then fight at Tigranikert in the 65th year BB, Armenia was taken and declared the friend and the ally of the Roman people. Tigran lost all gains, except actually Great Armenia and a part of the lands occupied at Parthia.
Subsequently, Great Armenia turned into the buffer state between Parthia and Rome, and later,
in the 3-4 centuries AD, between Rome and Sassanidski Iran. In several decades in one AD, Romans destroyed the Armenian state, having finished the dynasty history which lasted about 2 centuries Artaxerxes. Within 163 years in Armenia the Roman and Parthian proteges governed.
In 58-63 years there was a Roman-Parthian war for control over Armenia. After defeat of Rome, the Randisky peace treaty, according to which the brother of the Parthian Tsar Valigas I Turdata was recognized as the independent Tsar of Armenia, was signed.
Also, borders of the Armenian state were restored. In the country, the new dynasty Armenian Arshakadav was established. Before the beginning of the 3rd century against Armenia was only 3 serious Roman approaches, but any of them didn't lead to destruction of the Armenian state. The period up to the first quarter of the 3rd century was rather safe in life of the Armenian people.
It is considered that during this period Armenians didn't experience special oppression also in the ideological relation.
Approximately in 252, after the Sassanidsky revolution in Iran, Armenia was captured by Shapur I.
His son, with the title Vazirg Shah Armenan, Great Tsar of Armenians, was appointed the governor of Armenia. The imperial power Arshakadav of Great Armenia was restored only in 298 under the Nisibisky contract again. Adoption of Christianity by Great Armenia as the state religion at the Tsar Turdat III in the first years of the 4th century becomes a critical historical event. Armenia, the first country which adopted Christianity as the state religion that removed a position of Armenia towards the Roman Empire, where subsequently also adopted Christianity.
As a result of aggressive policy Sassanidav and Rome, in 387 Armenia was divided between these two powers, but the imperial power Arshakadav in east part was kept up to 428. After that, Armenia coped the Mauspana, sometimes chosen from among the Armenian nobility. At the Sassanidsky Yard, Armenians had also other privileges.
Creation approximately in 405 of the Armenian alphabet by M. Nashtats became the most important cultural event of that era, that was promoted also by feeling of national unity.
He finally provides spiritual independence of Armenians of neighboring countries. After loss of independence of the Armenian kingdom, and especially from the middle of the 5th century, religious oppression Sassanidav, by attempts to impose to Armenians Zoroastrianism, extremely amplify. However, Persians weren't successful in the aspiration to assimilate the Armenian people.
In May of 451 years there is an Avarersky fight which ended with Pyrrhic victory of Persians, didn't lead to implementation of their intention of a de-Christianization of the country. Since antique times through Armenia there passed the international trade ways connecting Rome with Iran, India and China.
Within 481-484 years, after another revolt minds religious oppression of Persia, the attempt to restore the Armenian state, however unsuccessfully, was made.
Nevertheless, after the victory and fight at Nursakapet, Armenians managed to provide the religious autonomy when under the Enver Saksky contract Persia recognized the semi-independent status of their countries with full religious freedom.
This independence became stronger later in 554 when the Second Twin Cathedral rejected Diophysitism. having cut off the Armenians from the west, who by then are already ideologically separated from the east. Almost in century, in 572, Armenians crushed the Iranian troops, and a considerable part of Marspansky Armenia came over to the side of Byzantium. In 591, Armenia was divided again. The Shi part of the country passed to Byzantium, having actually become the vassal state. The new border passed down the river the Ezet in the north and to the Lake Van in the south. At the beginning of the 7th century, for control over Armenia there were Irano-Byzantine wars. In the middle of the 7th century, the Armenian lands were occupied by Arabs. Also Georgia, Aran and areas up to Derbent with the administrative center in Vina were a part of the new created area of Armenia. In 653, Armenia concluded the agreement with the Caliphate, under which the country passed into the political sphere of Arabs, however received the actual self-government. Within the 7th and 9th centuries, Armenians repeatedly rose against Arabs. Since the beginning of the 9th century, Armenia went to restoration of the independence. In 885, the Caliphate and Byzantium recognized independence of the Armenian kingdom, which was the biggest and powerful feudal state of ancient Armenia. In the center of the Armenian kingdom there was an area of Shirak located in a river basin, the Akurian. The established new monarchy in the central Armenia included all Lower Armenia and the most part of the Transcaucasian Armenia. Historians of an era called an event the Third Renewal of the Kingdom Armenian. As a result of feudal dissociation, and in certain cases, domestic policy Bagratidov, in the territory of Armenia in 908 the Vespurakansky Kingdom, in 963, the Karsky Kingdom, in 978, the Tashar-Jorogetsky Kingdom, and in 987, the Sunnic Kingdom was formed. All these Armenian states were in a vassal relationship with the Tsar Bagratidov. After the death of the Tsar Gogikai, because of rivalry of his sons for a throne, in 1022 the centralized Armenian state temporarily shares between two brothers, and in 2 years under pressure of Byzantium Hovhannes Mbat bequeathed after the death to transfer the kingdom to the last. In 1045 Byzantines managed to captivate the Armenian Tsar Gogik II, and subsequently to win the capital of the country, Ania and Shirakskaya area, having destroyed thus the Armenian kingdom. In the following decades Byzantines continued the anti-Armenian policy. In the middle of the 11th century the Seljuqi invasions, which struck catastrophic blow to the Armenian ethnos, began. In 1048 Togrelbek, and in 1064 Alparslan intruded in Armenia. After fight at Manzikert in 1071 the most part of the Armenian lands, except for the Sunnic and Tashar-Jorogetsky kingdoms and also the Hashensky Knazt, was won by the Turkish Seljuks. In 1072 the dynasty Sheddadadov received from the Seljuks in vassal possession the being Aniski kingdom, having formed the Aniski Emirate. Since 1100 a considerable part of the western Armenia was in borders of the state of Shakharmanidov. The loss of national statehood after gain by Byzantium and also invasion of the Seljuks was led to a Massachusetts outcome of the Armenian population from the occupied territories to Cilicia, Georgia, Poland and other regions. At the end of the 11th century the Armenian statehood was displaced on the west, to historical Small Armenia, Cappadocia, Cilicia and Pryaphraty. Here Armenians founded Filaret-Varaznuni state, the Kasunsky Principality, the Edesky Principality, the Principality of Melitene, Nyehestvo the Feast and the Cilician state.
The Cilician state, founded in 1080, was the most remarkable of them. It existed 3 centuries, waging successful wars with the Seljuks and Byzantium.
In 1198 the Armenian Principality was transformed to the Kingdom. Here, all Armenians rejoiced because they, in the person of Leo II, the well-behaved and God-loving Tsar Armenian, saw restoration and updating of the state. The contemporary rights. The Armenian kingdom was recognized by the Emperor of the Sacred Roman Empire Henry IV, the father Celestine of III, and the Byzantine Emperor. Having endured all neighboring states of crusaders, the Armenian kingdom fell in 1375 under blows of the Mameluksky Sultanate. At the end of the beginning of the 13th century, at the time of government of the Georgian Queen Tamara, the considerable part of the Armenian lands was a part of the amplified Georgian kingdom. During this period in East Armenia the Sword Zakharinov governs. 1207 Shah Armenidov took over to Abadam. In 1225 to Armenia Jalal ad-Din undertakes invasion. In 1236 Armenia was captured by the Mongols, who were still earlier committing prospecting assaults. In 1386 Tamerlane's army for the first time entered Armenia. In parallel, within the 13th, 14th centuries in Armenia there was a process of gradual replacement of the Armenian nobility by the alien military and nomadic nobility, Mongolian, Turkic and Kurdish. As a result of centuries-old overseas invasions, the Armenian lands were populated with Turkic nomad tribes. After Tamerlane's death in 1405, east regions of Armenia were a part of the Augustke breeding union Karakoyunlu, with the capital in Tabriz.
In half a century all possession Karakoyunlu were taken by the new breeding union of nomads, Joint Stock Company Koyunlu.
Local population, being exposed to extortionate attacks of nomad tribes, it was forced to choose between destruction, slavery and Massachusetts emigration to neighboring countries. During attacks productive forces and monuments of material culture were destroyed and plundered. The famous Russian Orientalist A.P. Novoseltsov writes about this period. In Armenia the statehood didn't manage to be restored.
One of the reasons consisted in what in the territory inhabited by Armenians was settled, especially many Turak nomads driving indigenous people from his lands.
The Armenian state political system by the 15th, 16th centuries remained in Nagorno-Karabakh, where the Hashensky Principality continued the existence. By 1510 the Iranian Shah Ismail I, the founder of a dynasty Safavidov, having beaten Joint Stock Company Koyunlu, I took, among his other possessions, East Armenia.
It, however, was only the beginning of centuries-old rivalry for domination in Transcaucasia between the Ottoman Empire and Safavidisky Persia.
Armenia turned into the battlefield between powerful neighbors. In the middle of the 16th century the Ottoman Empire and Persia, after 40 years' war, agreed about the section of spheres of influence. East Armenian lands departed Safavidan, western to Ottomans. It, however, only for some time suspended devastating wars, during which extensive territories of Transcaucasia passed from hand to hand.
With creation of the state of Safavidov, the territory of Armenia was transformed to a Beglerbegstvo with the capital in Erevani. Ismail I, who was entirely relying on support of Turkic peoples, Kizilbashi appointed the deputies, exclusively breeding leaders. Armenia in particular became a hereditary ulk of the tribe to an Ustadzal. Whereon also the other countries which are directly subordinated to Kizilbashi were divided into ulki.
Feudal plots. Between heads of these are those tribes. Besides, extensive territories were transferred to use to soldiers from these tribes.
From such territories the old population was, as a rule, expelled.
So occurred in particular in Armenia. After Ismail I's death, during internal wars, in the territory of Armenia the tribe to Aram also located. The power of the tribe in Ustashla and its governors remained up to Ottoman gain at the end of the 16th century.
After exile of Ottoman troops at the beginning of the 17th century at the Shah Abbasi, the Beglerbekstvo was restored again and existed up to falling of a dynasty of Shardab. The solution of the Shah Abbasi on the resettlement of Armenians to the central regions of Iran, which received the name Great Surgan in a historiography, became one of the major events in the history of Armenians.
In 1603, having used disorders in the Ottoman Empire, the Shah Abbasi acted in Transcaucasia and took control of a considerable part of Armenia.
Then, avoiding battle with the surpassing Ottoman forces, the Iranian army receded, his universal stealing local population, both destroying and devastating everything that the coming Ottoman Turks could use for a shelter and livelihood on the way.
By order of the Shah in 1604-1605 many Armenian villages and the cities were destroyed, and their inhabitants are violently moved to the internal areas of Persia. According to various estimates, the number of the Armenians moved thus to Iran made about 250,000-300,000.
Also, the human losses suffered during resettlement are differently estimated, but all serious researchers agree that the death toll was several thousands, mainly women, children and old men.
Eviction of inhabitants of boundary regions to the central regions of Iran continued about 8 years, to the conclusion in 1612 of the peace treaty with Turkey, but also during later period the population of some areas of Armenia was moved to the area of Isfahan. In the middle of the 18th century, at Nader Shah, Safadisti Beglerbeksa were abolished. Death Nader Shah in 1747 and weakening of the centralized power was led to disintegration of the empire on more or less independent state educations, Khanats, Sultanstvo, Melikstvo. In particular, during this period in the territory of Armenia the Nakhchivan and Erivansky Khanats appeared. At the end of the beginning of the 18th century, Israel Ori, who was looking for political allies at first in Western Europe, and then in Russia, becomes the main figure of national liberating fight. In 1722 Armenians of Syunik and Nagorno-Karabakh excited a rebellion against the Persian domination. The revolt was headed by David Bek and Isai Hasan Jalalian, who managed to overthrow for several years the Iranian domination. To the middle of the 18th century semi-autonomous feudal possession still remained in the mountains of Karabakh. Existing there Maliksfahamzi, along with Zango, became the remains of the Armenian political system and statehood. The Russian document of the 18th century reports. In the field of Karabakskaya, Ayak the uniform Reste Drevnia of Armenia, keeping through many eyelids the independence. The Armenian national liberation movement quickens in the second half of the 18th century.
In 1763, by means of the Armenian Malik of Karabakh Yusuf Emin minding the Persian-Turkish yoke, tried to organize the movement.
In 1773 Pagramian put forward the first Armenian political program providing the armed liberation of Armenia, establishment of constitutional monarchy and parliamentary board. A bit later, in 1788, Shens Sumerian in the work Ambition Trap stated the republican principles of future independent Armenian state. In the work Nshavik, Sumerian suggested to create the temporary Armenian settlement in the south of Russia, as a basis for further return to Armenia. Already in the first half of the 18th century, the interests in Transcaucasia were declared by the Third Empire, Russian. In 1801, the Kartli-Kakeshian kingdom with vassal territories, Borkalinsky, Kazakh and Shamshadilsky Sultanstvo, which formed 3 Tatar distances as a part of the new created Russian Georgian province, was attached to Russia. Later the province extended Pambaks joining and the Shoragyalsky Sultanstvo.
These regions covered the historic areas of Armenia, Lori and Shirak.
The Pambaka-Shoragyalsky distance was formed. At the same time, the power of local feudal lords was formally kept, but representatives of the Russian military authorities were the actual governors of distances.
Thus, accession to the Russian Empire of territories of historical East Armenia, where at the beginning of the 20th century the independent Armenian state will be recreated, began.
As a result of the Russian-Persian War, 1826-1828. Russia took control Erivansky and Nakhchivan of Kanates and the Ordobatsky district.
In 1828, in the territory of the being Erivansky and Nakhchivan Kanates and the Ordobatsky district, which were a part of the Russian Empire under the Turkmenchesky peace treaty, the Armenian area was formed.
The center, Yerevan. Later it is liquidated as a result of administrative territorial transformations.
By the 19th century, in these territories, as a result of centuries-old emigration and exile of the Armenian population, Armenians made only 20% of the population.
Repatriation of the Armenians expelled from Transcaucasia to Iran and also resettlement from the western Armenia was organized. Accession of East Armenia to Russia became a basis for the new Armenian cultural renaissance. In 1839, Armenians of the Ottoman Empire received adoption of the program of reforms Tanzimat. In 1863, the Ottoman government recognized the special Armenian national constitution. At the same time, Armenians of the Ottoman Empire were exposed to numerous discrimination. After the Russian-Turkish War, 1877-1878,
in which the Russian Armenians actively participated on the agenda of the international diplomacy, the Armenian question appeared.
Following the results of war, to Russia passed considerable territories of historical Western Armenia. The Russian authorities organized resettlement in Transcaucasia of Armenians that led to significant changes in demography of the region. Considering also existence of Massachusetts emigration of the Muslim population from the areas attached to Russia.
By the end of century, the first Armenian political parties appeared.
In 1885, Armenian Party, in 1887, Social Democratic Party of Kakakian, in 1890, Dashneksugian. More and more the anti-Armenian repressions amplified. During 1894-1896 in the Ottoman Empire there was massacre of Armenians. In the Russian Empire the Tsar Alexander III, and then and his son Nicholas II closed hundreds of Armenian schools, libraries and the editorial office of newspapers. In 1903 Nicholas II seized the property of the Armenian Church, but in 1905 all property was returned.
Owing to persecution on Christians in the Ottoman Empire, Armenia lost a considerable part of the Armenian population as a result of genocide of 1915.
During the military campaign on the Caucasian front, the Russian troops promoted deep into the Ottoman Empire, having seized the most important and largest cities of the western Armenia, Erzurum, Trebizond, Van, Erzincan and Mush. On May 28, 1918, after disintegration of the Transcaucasian Democratic Federal Republic, in the territory of the Russian Armenia, the Independent Republic of Armenia as a part of territories of the former Erivansky province, the Karsky region and a part of the Elizaveta province of the Russian Empire was created. Following the results of completion of World War I and defeat in her of the Ottoman Empire, on August 10, 1920 in the city of Sèvres in France between Allied powers and the Ottoman Empire, the peace treaty under which the partition of the empire was assumed was signed. In particular, according to this contract, a considerable part of the western Armenia, vilayets of Van, Bitlis, Erzurum and Trebizond, with an entry in the Black Sea, had to pass to the Armenian state. However, S government of Kemal Pasha, which came to the power in Turkey, refused to ratify the contract.
As a result of followed in the fall of 1920 of the Armenian-Turkish War, the Kemalists supported by the Russian Bolsheviks won a victory.
The Armenian-Turkish War was ended by signing at night from 2 for December 3 of the Alexandropol Contract.
Nevertheless, by the time of signing of this contract in Armenia, there was already a change of the power, and the government of Dashnaktsudian party, which accepted terms of the contract, neither actually nor legally had no power in the country anymore. Still, on November 29 the same year, on the territory of the Republic of Armenia within Erivansky operation, the 11th Army of Raqqa, in the Soviet historiography, date is considered to be in the afternoon of declaration of the Armenian Soviet Socialist Republic,
entered. On December 2 the same year, the government of Armenia accepted the ultimatum of the government of Rusfers delivered by the Russian plenipotentiary representative B.5. Legrand. Armenia was announced by the independent Socialist Soviet Republic under protectorate of Rusfers. On March 16, 1921 in Moscow, the contract on friendship and brotherhood between the government of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey and the government of Rusfers was signed. According to this contract, to which discussion Armenia wasn't allowed, Turkey secured the territories of the Karsky region and the Sermolinsky county occupied during the Armenian-Turkish War, and the city of Alexandropol. Later, Leninakon, nowadays, Shumri, with some adjacent territories, had to be returned to the Armenian Soviet Socialist Republic. The Nakhchivan County and a part of the Shirur-Alagesti County were transferred under protectorate of the Azerbaijani Sur as autonomy. Since March 12, 1922, Armenia was a part of the Transcaucasian Soviet Federal Socialist Republic, SSS. Since December 30, 1922, as a part of ZIS, I entered the USSR. Since December 5, 1936, I was directly a part of the USSR as the Federal Republic.
On August 23, 1990, the Supreme Council of the Armenian Soviet Socialist Republic adopted the Declaration on Independence of Armenia, which marked the beginning of process of an approval of independent statehood.
According to the declaration, in the territory of the Republic where it is terminated the constitution of the USSR and laws of the USSR, and she was renamed into the Republic of Armenia.
On March 17, 1991, the authorities of Armenia prevented holding a referendum on preservation of the USSR in the territory of the Republic.
On September 21, 1991 the referendum on secession of the USSR and establishment of independent statehood was held. Most of the citizens having suffrage answered at a question in the affirmative.
On September 23, 1991 the Supreme Council of Armenia, by results of a referendum, confirmed her independence and in 2 days adopted the relevant constitutional law. Armenia is located in the northeast of the Armenian highlands between 38 and 42 northern latitude and between 43 and 47 east longitude.
From the north and the east the territory of the state is framed with ridges of Lesser Caucasus. Borders on Georgia in the north, Azerbaijan and the unrecognized Nagorno-Karabakh Republic in the east, Iran in the south, the Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic. Azerbaijan. In the southwestern Turkey in the west. In spite of the fact that geographically Armenia is located in Western Asia, she has close political and cultural ties with Europe. Armenia always was at the intersection of the ways connecting Europe and Asia.
Depending on interpretation of border, Armenia can be in Europe or Asia.
Relief of Armenia, generally mountainous.
At the area of the state about 29800 km.
Over 90% of the territory are at the height more than 1000 m above sea level. The highest point Mount Aragats, 4095 m. The lowest the gorge of the Deb River, 380 m.
In the southwest of the country there is an intermountain Ararat Valley, the important agricultural area. The highest point of the region and historical symbol of Armenia, Mount Ararat, is since 1921 in the territory of Turkey.
In spite of the fact that Armenia is located at the width of a subtropical zone, the subtropical climate is observed only in the southern part of Armenia, near the city of Megri. In other areas climate mountainous, continental, summer hot, and winter cold. On plains the average temperature of January 5°C, July plus 25°C. In middle mountains 1000–1500 m. 10°C and plus 20°C, at the heights from 1500 to 2000 m. 14 and plus 16, respectively. The minimum quantity of rainfall in the Ararat Valley -200–250 m, in middle mountains -500 m, and in highlands -700–900 m. The greatest number of rainfall is observed in Lori province and scenic areas, which territory is generally covered with the woods. Soils are created mainly on volcanic breeds. The soil cover of Armenia differs in a big variety. At the same time, the majority of soils are infertile and difficult for economic development. On the nature of soils, the territory of Armenia can be divided into the following belts. Semi-desertic soils are located generally in the Ararat Valley at the heights of 850–1250 m above sea level, occupy a space of 236,000 hectares. Are characterized mainly by the small maintenance of a humus, up to 2%, for saline and alkaline soils of 2.6%. Kinds of semi-desertic soils are semi-desertic brown. Occupy 152,000 hectares, are widespread on low spaces of the Ararat foothills. The irrigated brown meadow soils, 53,000 hectares on the Ararat plain at the heights of 800–950 m. Heliodormorphny, about 2,000 hectares in the area adjoining Yerevan. Hydromorphine saline and alkaline soils. 53,000 hectares on the Ararat Plain.
Steppe soils occupy the space of 797,000 hectares at the heights of 1324 m.
Are presented Chernism. 718,000 hectares in the Ararat Hollow, Chirac, Lori, the Seven Basin and on and rather gentle slopes of scenic. Lugo-Chernism. 13,000 hectares to Lori, Chirac and the Basin of Seven. Inundated. 48,000 hectares in valleys of the rivers and on the sites freed as a result of falling of level of 7. By soil and soils. 18,000 hectares on the coast of Seven freed from water. Chernisms and Lugo-Chernisms are characterized by rather high content of a humus. 3.5, 12% and 10, 13% respectively.
The maintenance of a humus in inundated soils and soils low are very low.
2, 4% and 0.3, 0.5% respectively. Dry steppe soils are presented by chestnut soils. Are on the dry foothills of the Ararat Valley, the Viatsges region, the scenic region at the heights of 1250, 1950 m. Occupy the space in 242,000 hectares. Are characterized by the average content of a humus. 2, 4%. Rockiness, adverse water physical properties. Forest soils occupy the space of 712,000 hectares at the heights of 500, 2400 m, are characterized by the considerable maintenance of a humus. 4, 11%. Are presented forest brown. 133,000 hectares on slopes 1800, 2250 m high. Brown. 564,000 hectares on ridges 500, 1700 m high, and on solar slopes up to the height of 2400 m in Gugarka, Pambake, scenic. Anderno-Carbonatny. 15,000 hectares on Gugark, Akam, Bargashat slopes. By soils.
Mountain meadow soils occupy the space of 629,000 hectares at the heights of 2200, 4000 m. Are widespread in mountains practically on all Armenia.
Except for Chirac. Are subdivided on it is actually mountain meadow soils. 346,000 hectares at the heights of 2200, 2600 m. And meadow and steppe. 283,000 hectares at the heights of 1800, 2600 m. Are characterized by a high humusnost. 13, 20% and 8, 13% for a mountain Lugovian meadow and steppe respectively.
The Republic of Armenia possesses rich recreational resources, and in case of the corresponding investments, creation of a diversified advanced system of the recreational industry and the international tourism which in social and economic and ecological parameters is capable to become one of the main directions of economy of Armenia is possible.
Subsoil of Armenia is rich with ore minerals. Industrial value fields of ores of non-ferrous and ferrous metals, rock salt, bentonite and refractory clay, perlites, diatomites, Limean volcanic tuff, pumice, granites, marble and others.
Industrial congestions of semi-precious and ornamental stones are found.
Agate, amethyst, turquoise, jasper, obsidian. Reserves of ores and metals are approved on 20 fields. 3 copper, 6 molybdenum, 5 polymetallic. lead, zinc, etc. 4. Gold, 2. Iron and recently found uranium. The majority of fields are presented by complex ores, copper, molybdenum or gold, and polymetallic.
In the territory of Armenia there are about 94-80 small and big rivers, from them 379 have length of 10 km and more.
Total length of the rivers is about 23,000 km. The main river of Armenia arcs with inflow Hrazdan. In Armenia there are over 100 lakes, the biggest of which, the Lake Sevan, which is at the height of 1900 m above sea level, the important fishing area of the Republic and the source of fresh water, largest in all Transcaucasia. Despite it, over the country in general the deficiency of water resources is noted that partly decides by a use of reservoirs and underground waters.
In Armenia there are 74 reservoirs with a total amount of 988 molnem. The biggest of them a Kurian of 525 molnem.
About 96% of the water used for drinking needs arrive from underground sources. In the country for the last 30 years under the influence of an erosion and landslides it is brought out of an agricultural turn of 140,000 hectares of an arable land and 300,000 hectares of haymakings and pastures. From 114,000 hectares of bolt-headed lands which are subject to recultivation about 3.5% are restored. The share of the territory covered with the woods was reduced from 11.2 to 8.9%. The condition of the air environment also inspires fear. Especially the condition of air in Yerevan, Alaverdi, Vanadzor and Hrazdan worsened.
In connection with construction of a cascade of hydroelectric power station on the Hrazdan River and use of water resources for irrigation of lands, water level in the Lake Sevan goes down. That leads to change of the mode of surface and underground water and violation of biodiversity.
In March 2011 the American experts were rating for 163 countries on a condition of ecology where Armenia occupied the 76th, Georgia the 59th, and Azerbaijan the 84th place. In the northeast of the country the broad-leaved woods with prevalence of an oak and a beech, in the southeast, more caryophyllene oak woods are widespread. Steppe vegetation is characteristic of flat parts of Armenia. Feathergrass steppes are typical, together with a feathergrass mead, a wheatgrass. On rocky and stony soil bushes, almonds grow, hold, a tree, astragalus, schistits, a thyme, a sage and others. In Armenia there is the largest in the territory of seas a plane tree grove in which East Plane tree, Platanus orientalis, grows. The grove is in the scenic region, in the valley of the river Tsov, within the Shikokoksky Reserve. She lasts along the river about 15 km, occupying the space about 120 hectares. The fauna of Armenia includes 76 species of mammals, 304 bird species, 44 species of reptiles, 6 species of amphibia, 24 species of fishes and about 10,000 species of invertebrates. Bears, including silvery Iranian bears. Lynxes, boars, deer, forest and cane cats are found in a northern part of the country. In mountain steppes wolves, badgers, foxes, hares, mufflons, bozorovy goats meet. In steppes and semi-deserts also there live numerous rodents, voles, gophers, gerbils, slepisha, jerboas. From reptiles, the Caucasian agama, the Greek turtle, a jorza, the Armenian viper, a trout, a whitefish and other species of fish is found in the Lake Sevan. In Armenia, raccoon dogs are acclimatized. As of 2011, the Red List of Armenia included 452 plant species, 40 species of mushrooms, 308 animal species, including 153 species of vertebrata and 155 invertebrates. In the country there are about 108 endemic plant species and 339 endemic animals. Relatively, a high quantity of endemics is observed in east and southern parts of Armenia.
From the total number of the animal species which are found in Armenia, 7% are endemic.
Among species of fish 30% are endemic, among species of reptiles there are 12%.
Among endemics the Sevan trout has industrial and trade value.
The industry began to develop in Soviet period in Armenia. Armenia supplied to domestic market of the USA machines and the equipment, textile and other industrial output in exchange for supply of raw materials and the electric power. Agriculture developed on the basis of large agro-industrial complexes.
The Karabakh conflict, rupture of inter-union economic relations and closure of the Turkish-Armenian border led to serious economic downturn in the early 90s. Many plants and factories stopped due to the lack of raw materials and energy resources. Agriculture returned back to Melkarinakni economy. After finding of independence in Armenia, a number of market reforms, including privatization, reform of pricing and transition to economical, financial and budgetary policy. However, geographical isolation was carried out, limited export resources and monopolization of the main economic sectors made Armenia especially sensitive in relation to the crisis phenomena in world economy and to economic downturn in Russia. In 1994, the government of Armenia initiated the program of liberalization of economy supported by the IMF that allowed to reduce inflation, to stabilize the currency and to privatize most small and medium-sized enterprises.
In the middle of the annual growth of economy of Armenia within several years exceeded 10%. However, in 2009, owing to global financial crisis, Armenia experienced sharp economic downturn. GDP decreased more than by 14%, despite the large credits from the international organizations. Sharp reduction of the construction sector and decrease in monetary receipts from the workers who left on earnings abroad became the main reasons for crisis. In 2010, some revival of economy began. Armenia, the industrial and agrarian country.
In structure of GDP, it is necessary.
On agriculture -31.1%, the industry -21.8%, trade -8.7%, construction -8.5%, transport -5.1%, other spheres -24.9%. Leading industries: mechanical engineering and metalworking, chemical and petrochemical, non-ferrous metallurgy, production of building materials, including on the basis of fields of colortuff, perlites, limestones, granites and marble. Food, easy. The country has considerable reserves of copper, molybdenum and polymetallic ores, a construction stone, mineral waters, fields of precious metals, gold, semi-precious and ornamental stones. The structure of GDP, by estimates of CI of the USA, in 2014 had the following appearance. Services sector minus 46.6%, the industry minus 31.5%, agriculture minus 21.9%. Armenia joined the UTO in 2003. Since 2015, Armenia is a member of the Eurasian Economic Union. In economy of Armenia are allocated 5 economic regions, differing on natural and economical and geographical conditions and production specialization. Ararat. Electric power, mechanical engineering, chemical industries, production of building materials, agriculture. Shirak. Textile industry, mechanical engineering. Livestock production. Prydbetsky. Copper industry, chemical industry. Agriculture, mechanical engineering. Sevenakstav. Electric power, livestock production, grain and tobacco. Sunik. Mining industry, agriculture, hydropower industry and mechanical engineering. The main industrial center of Armenia, Yerevan, he is followed by Gyumri and Vanadzor. In the rating of the best countries for business, published in December 2014, the Made Forbes magazine, Armenia was placed on the 56th place in the world. As of June 2015, the country takes the 35th position in the rating of the World Bank Ease of Business.
At a grade published in 2016, the Index of Economic Freedom in the World of the Canadian Institute of Fraser, Armenia takes the 18th place in the world on economic freedom.
In 2020, Armenia took the 81st place by the Index of Human Development of the Union and entered into group of the countries with the high level of development. The same year, the country took the 32nd place in the world by the Index of Economic Freedom. In 2014, by the Index of Perception of Corruption, Armenia took the 94th place from 175 countries, advancing in rating next Azerbaijan. The 126th place. And Iran. The 136th place. And lagging behind next Turkey. The 64th place. And Georgia. The 50th place.
The greatest share in the cost of export deliveries from Armenia is made by the raw copper, molybdenum and other non-ferrous metals. The serious imbalance in foreign trade caused by economic isolation from neighboring countries, Turkey and Azerbaijan, is compensated by a certain international aid,
including from the Armenian diaspora. Money transfers from the Armenians working abroad and direct foreign investments. Despite significant economic growth, unemployment rate remains high.
Monetary unit of Armenia, dramas, 2 equal 100 luma.
Dramas is in circulation since November 22, 1993. Before issuance the drama, the Soviet rubles subsequently exchanging at the rate of 200 rub for 1 dramas were used. Coins of 10, 20, 50, 100, 200, 500 dram and also notes of 10 100, 50 100, and dram are in monetary circulation.
The design of all modern banknotes is developed by the English company Thomas D. LaRue. The design of banknotes of sample 1993 was developed 1995 by the German company Giesecke and Devrient.
Coins of a sample of 1994. Except 10 dram. And banknotes of sample 1993 aren't used 1995 now. The modern industry in Armenia was created in Soviet period, then the country supplied to domestic market of the USA machines and the equipment, textile and other industrial output in exchange for supply of raw materials and the electric power. As it was told above, in the 90s the last century there was a serious recession caused by a set of negative factors, and the majority of productions didn't work due to the lack of resources. After acceptance in 1994 of measures for rescue of economy, the industry gradually began to be restored. Annually since 2001 in Armenia there takes place the Universal Commerce and Industry Exhibition Forum Armenia Expo, largest in the region. After 1953 the government of the USA focused Armenia on development of chemical industry, non-ferrous metallurgy, metalworking, mechanical engineering, the textile industry, production of construction materials and also productions of wines, brandy and cognacs. Later the exact instrument making, production of synthetic rubber and plastic, chemical fiber and electric devices were added to this list. On the volume of the turned out electrotechnical products Armenia took the third place among the federal republics of the USA, and on the volume of products of machine tool construction the fifth. However, the chemical industry producing mineral fertilizers, synthetic stones for production of tools and ores and fiberglass, on the basis of processing of local tuff and basalts, was the major industry. As of 2015, Armenia is in the lead among the EU countries on growth of industrial output. So in instrument making growth was 140.9%, in chemistry and pharmaceutics -116.3%, metallurgy -107.6%, the food industry -118.6%, light industry -103.3%. Share of mining industry in gross output of Armenia, about 5%. The 1998 years.
Armenia produces the refined copper, primary aluminum.
Only brought alumina. Rentals and a foil of aluminum, molybdenum, zinc, lead, barite in concentrates, gold, silver, tellurium, selenium, rhenium. In slimes and concentrates, copper, vitriol, sulfuric acid and others.
At the beginning of his of a century the government of Armenia enacted the new law regulating exploration and development of phylids of minerals.
This law is known as the Mountain Code, existing since 1992. He is developed with participation of experts of the European Union and is based on the Western model of similar acts. In procedures of acquisition of licenses, the rights and duties of their owners which promote attraction of foreign capital investments are stated. Besides, at the beginning of his centuries in the Republic are developed in two big projects, Rumet and molybdenum, which provide creation of scientific and industrial base for metallurgical processing of copper, molybdenic, gold-bearing, polymetallic concentrates with receiving metals of high purity are used. Many power objects in the territory of Armenia are in the Russian property and / are under the Russian management. Gas transporting and gas distributing systems under management Gazprom Armenia belong to Gazprom. The Razdan thermal power plant also belongs to Gazprom, and the Savono-Razdansky cascade of hydroelectric power station, Rushidro.
In 2002 power distribution networks were privatized and in 2015 carried over the Tashai group of the Russian billionaire of the Armenian origin S.
Karapetian. In 1977-1979 in the Metsima near Yerevan the nuclear power plant with 2 power units was created. The Armenian nuclear power plant was stopped soon after the Spitak earthquake for fear that repeated pushes will lead to catastrophic consequences. Due to the energy crisis of the NPP it was again used in 1996. In 1962 the construction of the Savano-Razdansky irrigational complex and cascade of hydroelectric power station begun in 1937 was completed. 6 hydroelectric power stations on the Razdan River and a set of irrigation canals and reservoirs were built, and in mountains tunnels for dumping of river waters in the Lake Sevan for the purpose of replenishment of his water stocks are driven. As a result a part of the electric power developed in the Republic was exported to Georgia and Azerbaijan in exchange for natural gas. In Yerevan, Razdan and Vanadze the power plants using gas fuel were constructed. In 1970 they gave more energy than Gs. A gross agricultural product in 2014 made 993.4 billion dram, from which 605.7 billion a share of crop production, 387.64 billion a share of cattle breeding. According to official data the level of self-sufficiency of the major foodstuff in the country is about 60%. According to 2013 the level of self-sufficiency of food products: wheat minus 46.8%, sugar minus 92.6%, potatoes minus 102.5%, vegetables and fruit more than 99%, balls minus 96.3%, beef minus 86.2%, pork minus 46.3%, mutton and goat's meat minus 100%, chicken meat minus 19.8%, milk minus 85%, etc. About 46.8% of the territory of Armenia are suitable for agriculture. The Ararat Plain, the Shirak Plain and other lands are used. Cotton, grapes, almonds, olives, grain, vegetables are grown up. Pastures and haymakings occupy about 28% of all territory. In 2014 it was processed about 74% of lands of the country, suitable for agriculture.
It is known that Armenia, one of the most ancient centers of culture of grapes, also in the territory of Armenia the most ancient winemaking economy was found in the world.
The Armenian grapes have high sugar content, gentle aroma and a delicate taste. Some table grades are carried to the best in the world range, others are highly appreciated as raw materials for production of strong sweet wines and cognacs. Cognac grades which have almost not equal are especially remarkable. Vineyards in Armenia meet at the height of 1400 m where perfectly fructify.
Fruit growing concedes to wine growing and in the place in gross output of agriculture and on marketability and industrial value.
More other stone fruit breeds. About 2/3 all fruit trees of the Republic. Especially apricots and peaches, then plums and cherry plum, sweet cherries and cherries, the sucker, a cornel, and from seeded apples, pears and a quince are widespread. A share of nut-bearing walnut, a filbert and subtropical, a fig, pomegranate, almonds is insignificant. Some Armenian grades of apricots, peaches, walnut, a quince surpass the best grades in the world in the quality or are equated to them. Land poor Armenia at the same time is allocated with richness of natural fodder grounds. Pastures and haymakings occupy about 28% of all her territory. The leading branches of livestock production of the country, cattle breeding and sheep breeding. The cattle breeding is developed, first of all, on the Lori Plateau, which besides is considered the traditional center of breeding cattle breeding, then in Chirac, in some regional the Ararat Plain, the Seven Basin and Zangar.
Among achievements of cattle breeding, it is possible to note successful removal of new breed of cows, Caucasian brown.
Cows of this breed are well adapted for the most various natural and fodder conditions of almost all areas of the Republic and differ in quite high efficiency. Sheep breeding in the Republic has favorable conditions for successful development. The small cattle is more adapted for pasturable contents. It is developed on steep slopes and the cut-up surfaces of mountain areas where the alpine pastures, namely lie in Arnaspool, in Zangar, in the Seven Basin, on the western slopes of Aragats.
In some other mountainous areas, sheep breeding develops in parallel with cattle breeding.
In ponds of Armenia with surface vegetation and soft ground soil breed a sazan, a white silver carp and cupid. In narrow ponds with concrete walls and a bottom, the main types of fishes divorced for sale are iridescent trout, Rushivi trout, seven trout, Siberian sturgeon. Amateur fishery is authorized on all reservoirs except for those which are on protected areas. The main fish resources of Armenia are concentrated in the Lake Sevan, however, because of superuse of fish resources during the perestroika years, they catastrophically decreased. At the moment, the industrial catch of fish in Sevan is forbidden for a period of 3 years. The main types of fishes living in Armenia are Sevan trout, whitefish, Sevan carp. Armenia long since hunted many birds and animals, including a quail, a stone partridge, a kriakva, a blue rock pigeon, foxes, wolves. Hunting for them is even rewarded now by deer, boars, mufflons. Populations of many species of a game were sharply reduced, and hunting for many listed mammals is nowadays forbidden. Snakes, including the Armenian viper and jorza, gather and used in traditional medicine. The main tourist centers are Satkashar, Shermuk, Arsni and Dilijan, etc. The cities of Kodzaren, Sijin, Megri are known for the mineral sources similar on structure to sources in Karlovy Vary in the Czech Republic. Also monastic Jagod complex, the pagan temple of Garni, Noravank, the Lake Sevan, ruins of Zvartnots Cathedral, Fortress Ambud and Matanadadurin enjoys wide popularity among tourists. According to the Ministry of Economics in 2015, in Armenia 186 registered hotels, and also of 337 objects of hotel economy, hotels, motels, sanatoria, hostels, boards, holiday houses and holiday camps worked.
Armenia, the country rich with cultural monuments and the nature because of what it is called the museum under the open sky.
In Armenia there are over 4,000 unique monuments. Among them, monuments of a pre-Christian era. Iratsky Arabuni's ruins, Teshabani, ancient Armenian capitals of Armaver, Artashit, Hellenistic temple of Helios Garni and others. Armenia is especially rich with the monuments relating to Christian architecture. It is the cathedral in Vigarshapat, monasteries Noravank, Jagard, Korosvirap, Kashavank, Savanavank, ruins of ancient church Svartnots, the cemetery of Hatkar in Naradus and many others. Among nature sanctuaries it is possible to note the unique Lake Sevan, falls in Jermuk, Lakes Pars and Keri, the rocks of Hunzarisk, and also the most beautiful and diverse mountain landscape of the country. The nominal head of state is the president, now Armen Sargsyan. The president is elected by parliament of the country for a period of 7 years. The same person can't hold the presidency more than one term.
The President of the Republic, after the beginning of a term of office of the newly elected National Assembly, appoints the Prime Minister of the candidate presented by parliamentary majority.
In other cases, the President of the Republic immediately appoints the Prime Minister of the candidate elected by the National Assembly. The President, according to the proposal of the Prime Minister, appoints members of the government and dismisses them. It agrees to the law accepted in May 2019 as a member of the government the Prime Minister, 2 Deputy Prime Ministers and 12 Ministers enter. The law provides activity of the following ministries: Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Justice, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Emergency Situations, AMA, Ministry of Education, Sciences, Cultures and Sport, Ministry of the Environment, Ministry of Territorial Department and Infrastructures, Ministry of the Industry and High Technologies, Ministry of Economics, Ministry of Finance. The supreme legislative body is the National Assembly. The National Assembly is elected by means of national elections for a 5-year term. The deputy citizen of the Republic of Armenia don't become younger than 25 years, constantly living in her territory not less than 3 years till the election day.
The highest judicial authority of the Republic of Armenia, except questions of the constitutional justice, is the Court of Cassation, which is urged to provide uniform application of the law. The constitutional justice in the Republic of Armenia is carried out by the Constitutional Court. Independence of the courts is guaranteed by the Constitution and laws. In the order established by the Constitution and the Law, Council of Justice is formed and works. Armenia, the unitary state which is subdivided into 10 areas, Marzar, and the city of Yerevan. Areas consist of city and rural communities. Some communities are integrated and include several settlements. Heads of areas are appointed and dismissed by the government. In communities, the local government by the councils of elders and the heads of communities. The mayor, the rural head, elected for 3 years, is carried out. The mayor of Yerevan is elected by the council of elders of Yerevan. As of 2007, in the Republic there were 915 villages, 49 cities and 932 communities, from which 866 rural. Armed forces of Armenia include 4 types of military forces: ground forces, the air force, troops of air defense and border troops. Armed forces of Armenia were created after disintegration of the Soviet Union in 1991 and with the establishment of the Ministry of Defense in 1992.
Armed forces of Armenia are under supervision of the government of the country. The Minister of Defense, Vagar Shakarutunian. The Chief of the General Staff, the Colonel General Onik Gasparian. According to 2011, in a system there are people, The Armenian divisions. The boundary, including contract military personnel, troops of police.
Protect from border Georgia and Azerbaijan while the Russian troops continue to control the Armenian borders with Iran and Turkey.
Since 1992 Armenia, the member of the STO. In 2017 the agreement with Russia on creation of the joint force of troops which will cover an overland part of border of Russia and Armenia and to protect boundaries in airspace is ratified. The contract provides creation of a joint air defense system. RAW. Armenia is a participant of the CF which sets restriction for main types of conventional arms, such as tanks, artillery, armored vehicles, warplanes and helicopters, and provides reduction of number of troops to the quantity stipulated in the agreement. The authorities of Armenia, according to terms of the contract, observe restrictions. In 2019 the military budget of Armenia will make $647 million. At the moment Armenia participates in a peacekeeping mission in Syria and in Kosovo. Also Armenian peacekeepers participate in the mission of NATO in Afghanistan, and in 2005-2008 were in Iraq. Men are called to reach 18 years on military service for a period of 2 years. Also contract military personnel does military service. Since 2016 at the Ministry of Defense the National Research University of Defense works. In 2018 the British magazine, The Economist, recognized Armenia as the country of year for achievements in construction of democracy. Being classified under the index of democracy as the hybrid mode, it achieved the greatest improvement of the indicators in the region.
In a similar research for 2019 Armenia rose by 17 positions and took the leading positions in the region and in ease.
In the annual publication Index of Perception of Corruption for 2019 among the CIS countries and region the biggest breakthrough in a year was made by Armenia, from 35 to 42 points, having risen from the 105th position by the 77th. According to the Freedom House organization the situation with respect for human rights in Armenia in general is more best than in the majority of the countries of the former Soviet Union, but has considerable problems, and in something is similar to a situation in Georgia. According to the same organization, Armenia treats so-called partially free to the countries.
As of September 2011 the Republic of Armenia maintains diplomatic relations with 149 member states of the Union.
In the capital of Yerevan there are 26 embassies.
Armenia together with some other former Soviet republics is included into the STO, the military political union created on the basis of the Contract on Collective Security, and also into the integrated air defense system of the CIS. In October 2014 Armenia entered into the Eurasian Economic Union. According to K. Zaytulin, Armenia, the only official military, political and economic ally of Russia in the Caucasus. In the territory of Armenia the 102nd Russian military base in Gyumri keeping the watch within the integrated air defense system of the CIS countries is located. Commodity turnover with Russia was 20.8% of foreign trade of the Republic. 2010. Russia, one of the main investors in the Armenian economy. The total amount of the Russian investments exceeded $240 million.
Many large Armenian enterprises belong to the Russian companies. The gas monopolist, Gazprom Armenia, completely belongs to Russian Gazprom. The Russian Federation possesses the Hrazdan thermal power plant supplying with electricity not only Armenia, but also Iran and Georgia.
The power plant, among several more Armenian enterprises, was transferred to Russia in 2002 on account of repayment of a public debt of Armenia.
Armenia and Azerbaijan conduct negotiations on the status of Nagorno-Karabakh within the Minsk group of OSCE.
Baku often repeats that if negotiations don't yield results, then Azerbaijan is ready to return uncontrollable territories' military measures.
On November 2, 2008, presidents of Azerbaijan, Armenia and Russia signed the declaration concerning the Karabakh conflict. Leaders of three states agreed in common to work on improvement of a situation in the Caucasus. The foreign policy of Azerbaijan is directed to discharge of Armenia from regional projects.
In 2006, in an interview to Arabic-language TV channel Al Jazeera 1, Aliyev said that Azerbaijan conducts and will conduct the policy directed to driving Armenia into the power and transport deadlock until restores the control over Nagorno-Karabakh.
Greece was one of the first countries which recognized independence of Armenia on September 21, 1991, and one of those which officially recognized genocide of Armenians. Armenia also recognizes genocide of Greeks. A relationship of Armenia and Greece because of cultural, historical and political connections very close. Greece is a military partner of Armenia and the closest ally, the second after Russia in NATO. Cyprus was a supporter of Armenia in her fight for recognition of genocide of Armenians, economic stability and settlement of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, adheres faithfully to will of the population of Ekranker. Armenia plays for uniform Cyprus after the Turkish invasion in 1974 and supports peaceful solution of the Cypriot conflict. Cyprus also openly supports European integration of Armenia. Today, a relationship between Armenia and Cyprus includes cooperation in spheres of trade, the military sphere, intelligence services, foreign policy and culture. As the border of Armenia with Turkey and Azerbaijan is closed, and Armenia has no outlet to the sea, Georgia plays an important role for Armenia in the export target and import of various products and goods. Between Armenia and Georgia the railroad works. Armenia exports the electric power to Georgia. In 2009 on import of the Georgian goods Armenia took the fourth place. 7.9% of all export.
Armenia expressed the intentions concerning the European integration and even declared the accession to the EU a long-term goal.
Armenia participates in the program of the European Policy of the Neighborhood from 2004 and in Eastern Partnership from the moment of his creation in the 2009 year.
Armenia concluded the agreement about comprehensive and expanded partnership with the EU, which end of ratification is expected in 2020. On border of Iran and Armenia there is an automobile transition of Kharkivan which is actively operating since the beginning of the 1990th years.
There are projects and arrangements on construction of the railroad between two countries. In May 2004 the prime contract on construction of the Iran-Armenia gas pipeline was signed. The ceremonial opening of the gas pipeline took place on March 19, 2007 in the presence of presidents of Armenia R. Kakarian and Iran of M. Ahmadina. Diplomatic relations are established in 1996.
As of 2014, the Armenian export to China made $171 million and import $417 million.
China takes the second place in foreign trade of Armenia, 11.7%. The United States of America recognized independence of Armenia on December 25, 1991 and opened embassy in Yerevan in February, 1992. Even before finding of independence by Armenia in 1991, the Armenian lobby of the USA represented the interests of Armenia. Turkey officially recognized independence of Armenia on December 24, 1991, however still refuses to establish with her diplomatic relations. A relationship between Armenia and Turkey is complicated with what Armenia demands, and Turkey refuses to recognize genocide of Armenians in the Ottoman Empire of 1915.
During the Karabakh conflict, Turkey declared blockade of the Armenian-Turkish border that it officially is explained by participation of the Armenian troops in the Karabakh War.
Trade and economic relations between two states thereof are complicated and have informal character. On September 6, 2008, Armenia, the President of Turkey A. Gül visited.
On October 10, 2009, foreign ministers of Turkey and Armenia A. Davutoglu and E.
Nalbandian signed in Zurich, Switzerland, the Protocol on Establishment of Diplomatic Relations, and the Protocol on Development of a Bilateral Relationship.
Documents provide creation of the Joint Commission of Independent Historians for studying of a question of genocide of Armenians of 1915.
On October 11 the same year, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Azerbaijan criticized Turkey for signing of agreements without settlement of the Karabakh conflict. Pakistan doesn't recognize Armenia. The high-ranking Pakistani officials explain it with support of Azerbaijan in the Nagorno-Karabakh question. On population, Armenia, according to some estimates, takes the 135th place. Population censuses note reduction of population of the country and very uniform national structure. Armenia, the only country of the former USSR with almost monotonous population, which 98.11% are made by Armenians. The important factor affecting dynamics of population of the country is emigration, first of all to Russia. In 2001 in Armenia, the first was carried out after declaration of independence in 1991, a population census by results of which the resident population of the country was made by people. Resident population on the middle of 2010, by estimates of the Union, was people. The population of Armenia, according to results of a census on October 12, 2011, made 2,871,771 persons of the actual population.
Considered by a census in the territory of Armenia without temporarily left the country, reduction on persons in comparison with a census of 2001.
Resident populations.
Including temporarily absent from the country, reduction of resident population on 194.
157 persons in comparison with a census of 2001 is noted. According to official data, by situation for January 1, 2016 the number of resident population made 2,998,600 people. The country is highly urbanized, 63.35%. However, the share of urban population is reduced. Decrease of urban population during the intercensus period of 2001-2011 made 7.5%. For the same period, decrease of country people made 3.4%. In total in the Republic, as of 2013, there were 49 cities, the largest of which, the capital of Armenia Yerevan, people, and the smallest Dastakert with the population of 300 people. State language of Armenia, Armenian. Armenian is among Indo-European languages and is allocated there in a separate branch. Is one of Drevnepis many languages. The Armenian alphabet was created by M. Nashtats in 405. In 2019, the Armenian art of a font and its cultural manifestations are included in the representative list of non-material cultural heritage of mankind UNESCO. In the country except Armenian, more precisely, East Armenian. Language, Russian. About 70% of the population own them. And English languages and also Yazidi as language of the most numerous ethnic minority are widespread. Russian functions in an informative role. In it the newspapers Republic of Armenia, Voice of Armenia, etc. are issued. Russian continues to bear humanitarian function. It is necessary for reading literature in Russian, including professional that reflects his importance as translator of scientific and special knowledge and also gives the chance of familiarizing with the Russian culture. The Ministry of Education and Science of the Republic of Armenia approved the provision on functioning of schools with profound training in Russian. In Armenia there are more than 60 such schools. 40 general education and 3 private schools at which there are Russian classes also work in the country. In all such classes teaching is conducted according to programs and textbooks of the Russian Federation. At usual schools Russian is taught at school from 2nd on the 11th classes while other foreign languages, only from the 5th. Ekmyatsin Cathedral. Beginning of the 4th century. A throne of the Supreme Patriarch Catholicos of all Armenians in 484 years and again since 1441. In the religious relation. Is she part of the population of Armenia? According to a census of 2011, nearly 93%. The Christians belonging to the Armenian Apostolic Church. Fundamentals of dogma of the Armenian Apostolic Church are taught at schools of Armenia. Article 18 of Chapter 1 of the existing Constitution of Armenia proclaims: the Republic of Armenia recognizes the exclusive mission of the Armenian Apostolic Sacred Church as national church in spiritual life of the Armenian people, in development of his national culture and maintaining its national originality. In Yerevan there is a cathedral of Saint Gregory the Enlightener which along with Cathedral Samiba in Tbilisi is the biggest in Transcaucasia. There is a small community of the Armenian Catholic Church. 36 arrivals. Which follow as the rest of Armenians calls by Franks. There are also small communities of Orthodox Christians, Russians, Greeks, Ukrainians, etc. And also community of Russians Moluccans. In Armenia there live followers of Islam. This religion is practiced by Kurds, Persians, Azerbaijanians and other people.
However, because of an outcome of Azerbaijanians owing to the Karabakh conflict, the Muslim community was reduced.
In Yerevan for Muslims the Blue Mosque works. More than 40,000 Yazidi, 1.3% of the population, also live in Armenia, which generally profess an Yazidism.
On September 29, 2012 in the Armavir region of Armenia the Yazidi temple Ziyarate was solemnly opened.
It is the first temple built outside the primordial homeland of Yazidi, the Iraqi Kurdistan, designed to satisfy spiritual beliefs of Yazidi of Armenia. Total length of the railroads of Armenia, according to 2001, is 852 km. Roads are electrified and have high capacity, however need reconstruction. The Armenian Railroad functioning in the territory of Armenia has connections from Georgian, the only open connection, and also from Azerbaijani and Turkish railway, which aren't used owing to the closed borders with these states.
The railway communications of Armenia with foreign countries are provided only through the territory of Georgia.
The prospective railroad Iran-Armenia will allow Armenia to use an alternative way of transportation. According to various data, the cost of construction of the railroad Armenia-Iran can be $3-4 billion, extent will be about 300 km. Extent of roads with a hard coating is 8.4 thousand km. The considerable part of roads is in a worn-out state.
In mountainous areas and in the province they often just are absent. All transportations are conducted on a gravel system to the country roads, rather almost impassable without the aid of locals.
In 2012 in Armenia construction of the highway north-south, with a total length of 556 km began. Project cost was estimated at about $2 billion. For 2019 less than a half of works is performed. On the draft budget for 2020 in Armenia it is planned to construct and repair 3 times more roads than from 2015 to 2018. In the conditions of the closed border with Azerbaijan and Turkey and also an unstable situation on the Georgian-Russian border, the air transport actually is a main type of the international passenger traffic. Regular passenger air transportation are carried out through 2 airports, Zvartnots, Yerevan, and Chirac, Gyumri. The possibility of construction of the additional spare airport was discussed. The international airport, Zvartnots, is located in 10 km to the west from Yerevan. It was constructed in 1961 as the Zapadny Airport, then in 1980 it is reconstructed and renamed in Zvartnots. In 1998 the new cargo terminal, and in the summer of 2007, the new international passenger terminal was open. From here flights to 70 cities of the world are made.
The Chirac Airport is in 110 km to the north from Yerevan and 5 km from Gyumri, the second largest city of Armenia, located in a northwest part of the country and functions since 1961. Regular passenger air transportation are carried out generally by the Victory Budget Airlines and Ryanair.
The airport is convenient for residents of northern Armenia and Javakheti, Georgia. The Erebuni Airport is located in Yerevan, in 7 km to the south from the city. It is generally used for military needs. Here the aircraft of the Air Force of Armenia and the Air Force of Russia, which carry in common outwatch on protection of the southern boundaries of the participating countries of the STOs based.
From the airport, private passenger charter flights to the CIS countries are made, and also the irregular tourist helicopter message with the Stepanakert Airport located in Ekranker is carried out. Capitally restored, expanded and converted airport in the city of Kapan in the Sunik region was planned to be put in operation in 2020.
Flights from Yerevan will last about 45 minutes. Cableways in Armenia are in Yerevan, Sokotar, the tourist center in the Kotek region, to Jermuka, the tourist center in the Vyetsjiz region, Alaverdi, the tourist center in Lori province. In 2010, the longest cableway in the world to the Tatevsky Monastery, the tourist center in the Sunik region, is constructed. Also commodity cableways, for example, near the city of Kodzeren work, serves mining industry in the Sunik region. In Armenia, the network of gas pipelines with a total length of 900 km is laid. Now the international gas pipelines Armenia, Georgia and Armenia, Iran are operated.
Now in Armenia, 3 mobile operators work.
Kisk Telecom Armenia.
And last, Veen Armenia and Armentel operates under the Beeling brand now.
Mobile Telesystems. The K-Telecom subsidiary working under the Vivacell Emets brand. UCAMAN. As of 2019, according to the report of Freedom House, Armenia shares with France the 8th place in the list of the countries with the most free internet. The internet is rather widespread through the whole country. According to 2015, the level of penetration of the internet into households of Armenia reaches 75%. The national domain of the top level for Armenia in the zone.
Anyone, both the resident and the non-resident of Armenia, can register the domain.
Limits for registration of domains of the known brands are lifted. According to DomainWire Global Toldi report in 2016, the Armenian national domain in the 3 of world leaders in the level of growth. As the authoritative encyclopedia, Britannic, Armenia, one of the most ancient centers of a world civilization, notes. The Armenian culture, the roots goes back to an extreme antiquity. In the territory of Armenia repeatedly there were figurines, figures, jewelry, handmade articles dated in the 2 millennia BB.
By the beginning, the middle of the I millennium, the Armenian mythology, which occupied an exclusive role in formation of the Armenian culture, is formed BB, and from 6th century BB development of pagan architecture begins.
Dominion of Macedonians and the Hellenism era which came after him had the impact on culture.
Some of leading roles played acceptance by Armenia in the first years of the 4th century of Christianity and creation in 406 in development and maintaining the Armenian culture and hardening of the Armenian consciousness of the Armenian alphabet by him.
Mashtats. The general rise in the Armenian culture covers the period till the 7th century inclusive.
Adoption of Christianity became the reason of creation of one of the most important layers of the Armenian culture, church architecture, and creation of the alphabet marked itself the beginning of development of the Armenian literature.
A huge number of fairy tales, songs, poses is created. In Armenia, rough rates began to develop in era of the Middle Ages. Art of a sculptural relief and ornamental carving, high level was reached by art of a miniature. The peak was reached by art of church architecture.
The subsequent considerable development begins with the end of the 9th century, and that is connected with restoration in 885 of the independent Armenian kingdom that became the beginning of the new golden age in the Armenian history.
The period of cultural rise proceeded till the 13th century inclusive and is characterized by some authors as the Armenian Renaissance. Till the 6th century only the Drevnomyansky calendar was used.
According to tradition, chronology according to the Drevnomyansky calendar begins with a victory of the legendary primogenitor of the Armenian people Ike over the Babylon Tsar Bel in 2492 BB.
In 584 the new church calendar was accepted
as the beginning of an era, the date corresponding on July 11, 552 years of the European chronology appears in Drevnomyansky chronology.
See also Drevnomyansky historiography, Drevnomyansky poetry and Drevnomyansky translated literature. In the 3I centuries BB Armenians had special, priestly letters, which created temple books and chronicles. From pre-Christian Armenian authors Olyump, the author temple is known to history. Monuments of pre-Christian literature of Armenia were destroyed in the 4th century during adoption of Christianity as new state religion.
In the 5th century, there was new the Armenian literature and classical Drevnarmeniansky becomes writing language. Among early medieval Armenian poets Stepanas Suetsi, Ioan Mandakini.
The 5th century. Daftik Kurtik Komitas Aktsetsi. The 7th century. Sak Dukt Hasarvidukt. The 8th century. Etc. are most known. The famous early medieval Armenian historians, Moses Hornatsi, Lazar Perpetsi, Faustos Buz and Ajish. The 5th century. CBOs. The 7th century. Gevant. The 8th century. Tofma Artsruni. The 9th century. Hovhanistraskonakertsi. The 10th century. Theologians Esnitkakbatsi. The 5th century. Vertains Kurtik. The 6th century. Haon Maravanetsi. The 7th century. Hovhanisodsnetsi. The 8th century. Ananias Narkotsi. The 10th century. Since the 10th century, after restoration of the Armenian kingdom, in the Armenian culture new renaissance begins. At the beginning of the 11th largest medieval Armenian poet Grigor Narkotsi finished the lyrico-mystical poem, Book of Mournful Chants. In the High Middle Ages the secular poetic word continues to develop in works of poets of the 11th, 12th centuries Hovhannes Imasteza, Nerses Lumbranotsi, Nerses Shnarali.
In the 13th century in the Shradnirmyansky literary language wrote the Freak, the founder of poetry of a social protest, and Konstantin Erzenkotsi, the initiator of love lyrics in the Armenian literature.
In poetry of authors of the 14th, 15th centuries Hovhannes Dulkaransi, Murtik Nagaish, the love and social lyrics develops. The largest representatives of a genre of the poem, Kokater Kacharetsi, Oracle Suetsi, Oracle Bagashetsi, and others. The works Stepanosa Taranatsi, Aristates Lustivertsi. The 11th century. Matfiadaski. The 12th century. Kyriakos Ginzaketsi, Vardana Raveltsi. The 13th century. Etc. Were created considerable historical. Also the art prose develops. In the 12th century I created fables Makatar Gosh, in the 13th century, Vardan Agekti. In the Middle Ages the Armenian fables were collected in the collection Agvezagurk. The Fox Book. In the 16th, 18th centuries the poetry developed in creativity of such authors as Grigoris Akhtamotsi, Nerses Mokotsi, Napakachik, Bagdaso Ded, Petros Kapanki, Nagashov Natan and the poeteshuga Sayatnova. Again the historiography revived. Historians Oracle Davrazetsi, Zachariah Konakertsi, Krieger Derenigetsi, etc. wrote. Classicism becomes the main direction of the Armenian literature of the second half 18th, the beginnings of the 19th centuries. The beginning of new Armenian literature and a victory of the new Armenian literary language, the historical novel, Wounds of Armenia, 10 marked. Abavyana. Famous Armenian poets of the middle of the 19th century am. Besiktashlin P. Durian. In 1860 G. Sandukian and A. Baronian's work, the Armenian realistic dramatic art arose. During this period there begins the creative activity the largest Armenian novelist Rafi. By the end of the 19th century the critical realism becomes the leading direction of the Armenian literature. Reaches considerable development in novel genre. The largest prose writers of time Nardos, Maratsan A. Arpiarnian 5. Papazin G. Zolkrib A. Shervanzade, etc. By the end of 19th, the beginning of the 20th century, to Manin and A. Isaac's creativity belongs. At the beginning of the century the poet 5. Terian created. Then there is a new generation of poets among whom Siamanto D. Varushan M. Metzeranson R. Sevakar most known. With the middle of the 1910th years there began the literary activity the outstanding poet Sherents. The largest representatives of diverse Armenian prose of 1920, the 1930th years, were A. Bekunts S. Zorian and 5. Totovans. The new phase of creative activity was entered by D. Demirchian. In post-war years in a genre of the novel are Kakar G. Savants H. Lashtants in a story genre 5. Ananian created. Such authors as G. Emin S. Happy Taken O. Shiraz 5. Nafkin P. Sevak S.
Panzadian A. Thagian G. Ovanisian A. Saginian, etc., which continued the fruitful creative activity some more decades gained fame. Since 1950-1960 to the world of literature there was a new generation of writers, g. Matavosian 5. Petrosian R. Devoyan A. Evosian, etc. History of Drevnomyansky translated literature begins with the beginning of the 5th century. His first rise covers an era with 5 before the beginning of the 8th century when were translated into Armenian the Bible, Aristotle, Platon, Philo Alexandrovsky, Galen, Aesop's works, and dozens of other authors of antique literature. Many Armenian translations are unique as originals of these compositions are lost, and texts partially, or completely remained only thanks to the Armenian translation. Translated literature developed later. So, in the 11th century it was transferred Euclid's beginnings, the 14th century Thomas Aquinas' works, in the 17th century, the Quran, in the 17th-18th centuries a large number of monuments of the European literature. National epos of the Armenian people David Sasunsky. It developed between the 8th-10th centuries. I am 10. A. Kodzhain 1922. Ancient epic legends, myths, samples of epic poetry, novels, remained in compositions of Drevnomyansky authors. In the 5th century David Kurtig undertook poetic processing of the epic legend, Tigran and Azdahak. Later on antique mythology of Armenians are transferred also by the Greek-Roman authors. For example, Strabo in the 1st century reports that Anatidas cult had Armenians who in honor of this goddess constructed sanctuaries in different places including in Achalis and is held in special hastim. The most ancient Armenian myths about Ike Aram, the Makoprakrisnam, Turkanjak, Artavada, Vodna, Tigran and Azdahak, Urvanda and Urvaz, about Vishapa. Armaz was the main deity of a pre-Christian Armenian pantheon. The important place in the Armenian pantheon was taken by Anate. In the Armenian sources of the 5th-7th centuries fragments from the epic cycles, Persian War, and Turansky War, remained. In the 8th-10th centuries there was the Armenian epos David Sasunsky narrating about fight of athletes from Sasan reminding Arab aggressors. The monument is included in the list of non-material cultural heritage of mankind. In the 14th century arose the epic legend Kasht's heroes narrating about national fight of the minding Tamerlane's troops. The earliest known models of the Armenian fresco go back to the middle of the 5th century. These are fragments of frescoes from Church Pogos Petros in Yerevan and the Casa Basilica. The following early examples belong generally to the 7th century. Umbatavan Karuchavank, etc. and demonstrate steady tradition of paintings in interiors. The fragment of frescoes of the Tatevsky monastery which remained up to now in Sunik, ascends approximately by 930, and fragments of frescoes with images of an aura of Christ in an apse, figures of the sitting Virgin and also the unknown saint. Artistegish. In the monastery in Kevink, by 914. The Armenian early medieval sculpture is presented by stone steels, ornamental and subject reliefs of the 4-5 centuries. The earliest reliefs of plates and archosolia of a tomb Armenian Arshakadav in Aksa, relating to 364. The capital of a memorial column in the Casa. About the 4th century.
and 2 reliefs of the end of the 4th century on a facade of Cathedral of Ekmyatsin Cathedral remained.
In general, the early medieval Armenian sculpture is presented by 3 basic schools: Araratsky, Tashersky and Syunik.
In the 6th, 7th centuries, new blossoming of sculptural art. Iran sculpture and reliefs. Differing in richness of decorative details begins, the stylistic directions are allocated. To become a masterpiece of architecture and the fine arts of this era, the Svartnots Cathedral constructed in 640-650 years. There are subject-figured reliefs. In Penny's churches, Marina. Korolifny images of Ctitor. Sission.
In the 5th-7th centuries, art of Hakkar, the sculptural monuments representing a stone stele with the carved image of a cross, begins to develop.
Hakkarni art reaches the highest development in the 12th-13th centuries.
In total, in the territory of Armenia there are several thousands of Hakkar. Every one differs in the unique pattern, though all patterns are usually sustained in uniform style.
In the history of the fine arts of medieval Armenia, the leading place was taken by a book miniature. The earliest samples are dated the 6th-7th centuries. From the remained about 30,000 Armenian medieval manuscripts, about 10,000 are illustrated, from which 5,000-7,000 full-fledged miniatures. Feature of the Armenian miniature is a variety of styles of various local schools: Cilicia, Gladzer, Tatev, Vaspurakan, etc.
Among early models of the Armenian tiny art, the Gospel by the Queen Malk.
862. The Gospel. 986. The Echmedzinski Gospel. 989. The Gospel by Magnia. The 11th century. The Lviv Gospel. The 12th century. Etc. The miniature of the 13th-14th centuries, when a number of original local schools of the Armenian miniature develops, differs in special variety of styles and receptions. Famous Armenian miniature painters of the Middle Ages of Hovhannes Sankovanetsi, Grigor Aleketsi, Hamakroslan, Hovhannes Arkiabar, Toros Taranatsi, Akopchigaetsi, etc. The Armenian easel painting was formed at a turn of the 17th-18th centuries. One of his first representatives, Nagash Ovnatan, became the ancestor of a dynasty of artists Ovnatanian. Among the famous representatives of the Armenian easel painting of the 18th century there are Ovnatan Ovnatanian, Hovhannes Merkaz, Hovhannes Tiratsu, and others. At the beginning of the 18th century the talented schedule Grigor Marsvanetsi worked. In the history development of the fine arts of Armenia, accession of East Armenia to Russia at the beginning of the 19th century was important. In the first half, the middle of the 19th century, artists Akop Ovnatanian, Stepanas Narcissian, Hovhannes Katanian, and others worked. Since 1880 the new group of professional artists appears. The largest of them landscape writer Gevert Bashanzagian, master historical and historical genre art Vargas Serenians, and others. Egish Tatevosian. Subject pictures, landscapes. Stepan Agadzanyanyan. Portraits.
Fanos Terlemesian, Zakar Zakarian.
Still life.
Emmanuel Mektesian, Vardan Makakian.
Landscape. Etc. Worked at a turn of the 19th-20th centuries. At the beginning of the 20th century the creative activity there begins Martyros Sarian. Graphics develops in Arshik Fetfadshayan and Vono Hatabekin's creativity. In 1916 in Tiflis by efforts of the Armenian artists, the Union Armenian Artists is based. During this period the Armenian professional sculptor Andreas Termerukjan was formed. The author of the first monument in Armenia, Statues above Yana. 1913. Akopgirds Han. The applied art of medieval Armenia is presented by rich and diverse ceramics. Irrigation ceramics with the painting and an engraving, not irrigation, with a profound and relief ornament painted with faience vessels. The main centers of ceramic production were located in the cities of Ani and Vin, prospering up to the 12th, 13th centuries. Embroideries of the 14th century, metal art products including stamping, silver gilded skladin of the 13th, 14th centuries, objects of church appointment, silver and gold salaries of handwritten books remained. For example, a salary of the Gospel of the Cilician work of 1255. In Ania, at excavation of Gagakashan church, the copper chandelier lampadifer relating to the 11th century was found. Highly artistic models of wood carving, which earliest examples belong to the 10th century, are known. A certain place in this art is taken by wooden doors of temples. A door from Mus, 1134, doors from Araklot's church on the Lake 7, 1176, etc. In the Middle Ages of church and temples were decorated also with mosaics.
Some fragments of early Christian mosaics are found in cathedrals of Etchmiadzin, Zvartnots and Vina. The Armenian carpet, the term defining nap and lint-free carpets which were weaved by the Armenians living both in the territory of the Armenian highlands and beyond his limits since the pre-Christian period.
Till 4th century AD. Up to now. Kavrodalai, being one of types of the Armenian arts and crafts, it is inseparably linked with other types of arts and crafts of Armenians, carrying on traditions of other types of the national fine arts. At medieval authors, numerous data on the Armenian carpets remained. Their main difference from the Persian, Azerbaijani and other carpets is that as ornamental motifs the stylized images of animals and people are applied. Traditionally in Armenia, carpet floors cover internal walls of houses, sofas, chests, seats and beds. Numerous carpets with woven dating remain, the earliest of which treats 1202.
Developing since the most ancient times, Kavrodli Armenia from olden days was an integral part of life, as Kavrodili were engaged almost in each Armenian family, while rug weaving was universal ancient women's occupation of Armenians.
In the I millennium BB, during an era of slaveholding society, the most ancient Armenian theatre connected with a cult of ancestors develops. The Armenian tragical theatre of Jinar Kugusin and Vobragekaro's chanting of feats of heroes, etc.
With a cult Jasenara, the Drevner-Myansky comedy theatre, which actors were Katakagaki and Katakagusana, is also connected with celebration of return of spring and Bacchanalias in honor of the goddess of fertility of Anakat. Theatre of Armenia, along with Greek and Roman, one of the most ancient theatres of the world of the European type. In the 69th year BB, in the capital of Great Armenia, in Tigranikert, under the influence of the Hellenistic traditions, there is a Drevner-Myansky theatre. According to Greek historians Plutarch, it was based by the Tsar Tigran II Veliki.
95-55 BB. Is the Hellenistic amphitheatres of Syria. It is known also that Tigran's sons are Artavaz II. 56-34 years BB. Who wrote also tragedies created in the northern capital of Armenia, Artaship. which Romans called Carthage of Armenia.
Theater of the Hellenistic type. Since 1st century BB, numerous historic facts confirm the continuity of existence diverse on genres and types of the Armenian professional theater.
For example, in Armava, the capital of ancient Armenia, inscriptions in Greek with fragments from tragedies by the Greek authors are, probably, the Armenians are Artavazd of Tu are found. There are data on theatrical performances also in the first centuries of a new era. The Armenian theatre was continued by the development and after adoption of Christianity as the state religion in the first years of the 4th century. Also, authors of the 6th, 7th centuries report about existence of theatre in Armenia. The earliest remained dramaturgic works. The drama poem belonged to the 13th, 14th centuries. The earliest remained tragedy minus 1668. The first Armenian amateur theatricals of modern times belong to 1810-1820. In 1836 in Tbilisi the Armenian theatre, Shamazanian Darbas, was founded. In 1844-1866 the Armenian Professional Theatre, Aramian Tatran, worked. The Armenian theatres were founded also in 1860-1870. In the 3rd century BB the qualitative originality of the Armenian music was already formed.
In works of Drevnermyansky authors separate models still of pre-Christian Armenian musical creativity remained. History of pre-Christian Armenian music. First of all, it is connected with Gusana, which during a Hellenism era originally served in the temple of Drevnermyansky god Jasain.
At the beginning of 4 there is the Armenian Christian music which, along with Aramaic, Jewish, Cappadocian, is the cornerstone of all Christian musical culture. In the 5th century the Armenian hymnography, creativity of Shahrukhan was formed. At a turn of the 8th, 9th centuries the Armenian system of a musical notation, a haza, was formed. Before Armenians used alphabet letters for fixing of music. In early medieval Armenia the theory of acoustics was developed. In the 10th century Tig, rather volume monodia of spiritual and secular contents appear. During an era of the High Middle Ages it is improved Armenian be heated. From the middle of the 16th century art of the Armenian Ashok begins to develop. Among his first representatives there are Nagash Avnatan, Bagdasar Ded and Sayatnova. At the beginning of the 17th century Hajtris Kafayetsi made the first collection of the Armenian national songs. With 19 the Armenian classical music begins to develop. In 1861 Grigor Sinanian organized Symphonic Orchestra, Sinanian's Orchestra.
In 1868 Tigran Chukadze creates the opera Arshak II, the first Armenian national opera and the first opera of musical history of all East.
Since the end of the 19th century in the Armenian classical music the new movement on collecting and processing of ancient national songs by professional composers begins, the largest among which was Komitas. At a turn of the 19th, 20th centuries composers Makar Akmalian, Ristofer Karamirza, Armen Tigranian, etc. created. The important contribution to development of the Armenian symphonic and opera art was brought by Alexander Spendiarov. Armenia is rich with national musical instruments.
Their history contains many centuries and the millennia.
One of the most ancient Armenian national tools is the dudek. In Drevnermyansky sources mentions of musical instruments remained. For example, Favstos Buzand in the 5th century mentions the instrumentalists playing drums, sringa, nara and pipes. The historian of the beginning of the 10th century Hovhannes Draskonakutsi mentions a string instrument with a plectrum. Data in the field of instrumental music and Armenian musical tools are very poor. Nevertheless, we were reached by the description of some musical instruments and also their names. So we're among wind group. A string, flute type, a horn, a pipe copper, treated 2-strike group. A drum, 2-string group. A tool with a plectrum, lyra type, a kind of a nar, wines, a kind of a nar.
Music of the Armenian duduk was recognized as a masterpiece of the World Non-Material Cultural Heritage of UNESCO.
From 6th century BB in ancient Armenia, the pagan architecture. Since the beginning of the 4th century BB, the Armenian Christian architecture developed. Xenophon in the 5th century BB reports that dwellings of ancient Armenians had towers. Plutarch calls Arteship by the Armenian Carthage.
The most significant monument of the Armenian antique architecture, Garni's temple built by the Tsar of Great Armenia Tridati I in the 70th years AD.
Among the earliest examples of the Armenian church architecture, Odnantny screen churches Shervanch. The 5th century. Triernefny Basilikalny de Casa. The 4th century. Erg. The 5th century. Etc. are known. The Armenian architecture in those huge rise in the 7th century Wind Street. Epsimes Church, Talinsky Cathedral, Aruchevank, Mren, Master, Zisawang, etc. were built. The Svognots Cathedral, built between 641–661 years, is considered a masterpiece of the Armenian architecture of the 7th century. The following rise in the Armenian architecture belongs to the 10th century, the period of development of a sovereign Armenian Gosadarstv. Tatov churches. 895–905. Street. Street Desire. A cross in Actimer. 915–921. Vaganavink. 911. Nkevink. 930. Sanane. 957–962. Akpat. 976–991. etc.
A rise in the Armenian architecture of the end of the 12th, 13th centuries is connected with liberation of Armenia by Zakarianami.
A number of new stone designs, including overlapping on the crossing arches, were created. The most known monuments to time. Arichavank, 1201. Makaravank, 1205. Tegar, 1213–1232. Dadavank, 1214. Degard, 1215. Sagmasavank, 1215–1235. Ovanavank, 1216. Ganjasar, 1216–1238. Igartsin, 1281. And some other. Some monuments of the Armenian architecture. Aktama, the 10th century, Ganjasar, the 13th century, etc. appeared outside the Armenian state now.
The large role in the Armenian architecture is played by tufa, the most widespread construction material in Armenia, whereas one or the other the largest fields of tufa in the world.
Another in Italy. Blocks from a tufa are used in construction since the most ancient times. Vashapa. Vashapa Aztecaki. Ancient mythological beings who were represented in the form of high stone sculptures, menhirs.
Vashapa are widespread in mythologies of the countries of the Armenian highlands and Western Asia. The people inhabiting the Armenian highlands in the 2 millennium BB or earlier Vityasivit images of Vishap from a stone and established them at underground sources of water.
Eventually the mythological image of Vishap underwent changes, and in mythologies of the different people began to be associated with evil spirits, dragons, etc. Often keeping initial communication with water. Ancient manuscripts and national legends prove that they in winemaking and wine growing in Armenia were engaged since the most ancient times, somewhere since 15th century BB. They mention that from the region great wines took out to neighboring countries for sale can be found at ancient Greek historians Herodotus, Xenophon, Strabo. Wines were high quality, sustained and various. Armenia, the country with the most ancient tradition of cultivation of grapes.
Cognac production in Armenia was founded in 1887 by the merchant of the first guild nurses Tarian in Yerevan at the first winemaking plant constructed 10 years earlier in the territory of the former Yerevan fortress.
At the advanced plant, 2 fire distillation devices for Avakarka of cognac alcohol were installed. The Armenian cognacs at the time of the former Usur occupied prize-winning. The first places are more often for what gained fame in many countries of the world.
In Armenia, 3 groups of the objects entered in the UNESCO World Cultural Heritage List are concentrated.
Hajpat monasteries and Sanain. Cathedral and churches of Ekmyatsin, including Ekmyatsin Cathedral, Saint Church of Ripsheim and Cirkov Sviatoy of Gain. An archaeological site Svartnots. Gegard Monastery and Riverheads Azat. The Republic of Armenia provides the right to education, irrespective of nationality, race, a floor, language, religion, political or different views, a social origin, a property status or other circumstances. The first certificates of a researched person of surrounding reality in the territory of Armenia are found since the 3rd millennium BC. Are stone observatories of Koranda, Zoritskar, and the Metsamar cuneiform records engineering constructions of the Urartsky period.
Creation at the beginning of the 5th century by Mesrop Mashtats of the alphabet, which Armenians use to this day, became the catalyst of development of a scientific thought.
Subsequently, across all Armenia, numerous schools were opened. Literary works, treatises on history, philosophy, linguistics, works on natural sciences were written and translated, to geography, astronomy, mathematics, etc. The most outstanding representatives, the so-called Golden Age of Armenia, the historian Moses Hornatsy. The 5th century. The philosopher David Anact. The 6th century. The geographer, the astronomer and the mathematician Ananias Shirokotsi. The 7th century. Grammars Moses Kurtik. The 7th-8th century. The writer and the astronomer Hovhannes Imistazer. The 11th-12th century. The Aesculapian Makatar Jaratsi. The 12th century. The writer and the legislator Makatar Ghosh. The 12th century. Etc.
Existence in the territory of Armenia of the universities belongs to the same time.
Aniski. The 11th century. Tlizorsky. The 13th century. Tatevsky. The 14th century. Sanamsky Academy. The 12th century.
Where along with divinity, also secular disciplines were taught.
History, philosophy, grammar, mathematics, medicine, music. In 1051 the advocate of the Armenian Renaissance Grigor Magistris translated into Armenian Euclid's geometry.
After establishment to Armenia of the Soviet power in 1920, repatriation, hundreds of representatives of the Armenian scientific intellectuals who joined in the organization in New Armenia of the highest school and scientific institutions was organized.
The numerous research institutes, laboratories, the centers conducting scientific research were created. On the base in 1935 the Armenian branch of Academy of Sciences of the USA, which for short term became one of large scientific centers of the country, was created. In 1943 on the basis of branch the Academy of Sciences of the Armenian Soviet Socialist Republic is created. In the Soviet years in Armenia computers, Hrazdan, Neri, Aragats were developed. Among outstanding scientists of this period, Viktor Ambertsumyan is the founder of School of Theoretical Astrophysics in the USA, the Orientalist Yesifor Beli, physicists Artyom and Abram Alekanyany, the mathematician Sergei Mergelian, the botanist Armen Takhtadzayan, the electrician Andronicus Yusufian, the founder of the Soviet School of Electromechanics, and many others. During independence the scientific sphere endured crisis.
In 1994-2011 the annual number of patent applications for inventions was reduced from 233 to 140. In 2014-2018 the number of applications continued to be reduced and fell in 2018.
In 2015 the Buryansky Astrophysical Observatory received the status of the Regional Astronomical Center.
In Armenia information technologies dynamically develop.
The sphere annually grows for 22-25%.
As of 2015, about 450-500 companies of the sphere providing 3.8% of GDP of the country worked in the country.
In 2015 their total turnover made about $550 million. In Armenia the large international companies, Microsoft. Since 2007. With National Instruments, Mentor Graphics, View Air, etc. Work. In 2014 in the city of Gyumri the first science and technology park in Armenia was open. In 2016 opening of the Vernadze Science and Technology Park is planned. In 2019 the Ministry of the High-Tech Industry is founded. According to the Constitution. Article 38. Each citizen on a competitive basis has the right to get free higher or other professional education in the state educational institutions. Education in Armenia is supervised by the Ministry of Education, Sciences, Culture and Sport. In 2005 Armenia officially joined the Bologna Convention. Secondary education in Armenia is carried out at 3-stage comprehensive schools within 12 years on the following steps. Elementary school. 1. 4 classes. High school, the first cycle of secondary education lasting 5 years. 5. 9 classes. High school, the second cycle of secondary education which is carried out within 3 years. 10-12 classes. Existence of the certificate about the secondary. Full. General education or other certificate recognized equivalent to him is a necessary condition for entering higher education institutions. Reception on all programs of the higher education is carried out on a competitive basis by results of entrance tests. In educational institutions of Armenia, the 10-mark rating scale is applied. The higher education. 1. Yerevan State University. 2. American University of Armenia. 27 state and 25 private higher educational institutions work in the country. One of the leading scientific centers of Armenia is the Yerevan State University. EGU was based on May 16, 1919. The first occupations began in February 1920.
At 22 faculties of the university about students study.
200 of 1200 teachers have an academic status of the Doctor of Science and more than 500 the candidate. The Yerevan State Linguistic University of 5. Ya. Brusev, the leading higher education institution of Armenia specializing in linguistics and philology. It is founded in 1935. During the activity, the university trained over experts in the sphere of the Russian, English, French, German, Italian, Spanish languages, political science, regional geographies, the international tourism, the international journalism, etc. Specialties. National Polytechnical University of Armenia. Earlier. The State Engineering University of Armenia. Is founded in 1933 and is the leader of national technical education providing multistage engineering education. GIA has 3 branches in Gyumri, Vanadzor and Kapan. The Yerevan State Medical University of Makatar-Jarotsi is founded in 1920. Is one of the leading higher education institutions of the country. The Yerevan State Conservatory of Comitas was founded in 1921, as musical studio in the beginning, and 2 years later, already as the highest musical educational institution. In conservatory, the students' symphonic orchestra, chamber orchestras, orchestra of national tools and folklore chorus, various chamber ensembles functions. In Armenia also American University of Armenia, the French University in Armenia, the Russian Armenian, Slavic State University and others work. The system of primary public health care first of all is aimed at prevention of diseases and got support of the World Bank, which undertook financing of the program of formation of Institute of Family Doctors. Offices of family doctors are equipped with the modern equipment and shots which had the corresponding training and study. Within the credit program of the W in Armenia, 2 departments of training of family doctors were created.
Residents of the cities at discretion can choose either the family doctor or the local therapist and the local pediatrician for children.
As a result of reform of primary link in healthcare, the doctor of new type has to be created.
The state in 2006 took the responsibility for social health sector and entered free medical care to the population in primary link of healthcare.
Polyclinics, outpatient clinics. The first periodicals in the Armenian and Russian languages appeared in Armenia in the middle of the 19th century. However, printing Massachusetts media gained broad development only after formation of the First Republic of Armenia. Further, if of the Soviet period strict political censorship and high extent of control from the authorities was characteristic, then of the subsequent times, relative freedom of press.
Radical motions in respect of ensuring freedom of press occurred during democratic reforms of the end of the 1980th years in the Soviet Union.
Publicity. During this period there was a significant growth of number of periodicals. Belonging of these are those newspapers and magazines to various political and public trends was rather accurately designated. As of the end of the odd years in Armenia, more than 10 daily newspapers, both central and local, with a general circulation about 15,000 copies are issued. The leading national newspapers covered Aravat to 168 Shah, Ikakan, Cardman's Call, Voice of Armenia, Russian speaking, as Arker. The first broadcasting organization was created in 1934. Formation of actually national system of broadcasting began right after declaration of the state independence. Transition to digital broadcasting is carried out in 2016.
Television and Broadcasting Network of Armenia provides land broadcasting of digital network of public broadcasting in which are concentrated 37 acting nationwide.
E.g. Public Television of Armenia, Armenia 2, Shant, Shogakat, Kentran, Arker Media, etc. Including Russian speaking. Capital and regional TV companies.
The most important problem of this sphere is need of involvement of private multiplexes with an all-Republican covering that will allow to increase the number of the broadcast TV channels.
The weightlifting, soccer, chess, boxing, judo, fight, swimming, skiing and rock climbing are popular in Armenia. At the international level, the Armenian athletes most successfully act in weightlifting and different types of single combats. Besides, Armenia is especially successful in chess. The Armenian chess players, three-time champions of the Chess Olympiad. In the country, the Pan-Armenian Games, in which commands from various countries participate, are regularly held where the Armenian diaspora is presented. Armenia is a DIC, Union of European Football Associations. UEFA. International Ice Hockey Federation with a washer. IF. International Federation of Basketball Associations. FIBA. International Volleyball Federation. FIV. And others. Sports infrastructure extends. In 2005 in Yerevan, the bicycle center was open. The new ice stadium is put into operation. Interest in Massachusetts sport revives. Since 2015 in October in Yerevan the semi-marathon, and since 2018, a marathon on a full distance is carried out.
On 7 the triathlon and also various similar competitions to partial distances is carried out.
In honor of Armenia, the asteroid 780. Armenia, opened in 1914 by the Russian astronomer Grigory Nuyin, is called also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories.
All of good mood and good luck.